in this conference, I'm belonging to the minority of social scientists, so bear with me. And actually, my current research is I'm doing current research on human sled dog relations, but I was used to work in a project in a university which also involved reindeer. So this presentation is based on that and this is more tourism industry perspective, how they, what kind of issues they are facing using reindeer in tourism and how they try to deal with them. So as a starting point, like defining animal welfare, we have used there in this triangle from the Finnish Center for Animal Welfare. And so these three rights for animals and how they try to apply these to tourism industry. And here is something about the significance of reindeer farm tourism in Finnish Lapland. And this is a situation from 2016. And since the tourism industry has been growing like a couple of % per year, like last couple of years, so I believe these numbers are higher at the moment, so there's more reindeer farms doing tourism and also more reindeer used in tourism industry. So it's a quite significant industry in Finnish Lapland. So then, because in previous presentation we were heard about this, should I say, traditional reindeer herding. So then, what is a tourism reindeer? So here, these are like straight quotes from the interviews to tourists, the reindeer owners, or the company owners, and the travel agency. So kind of the tourism reindeer is between these three, that the tourists say that we don't want to participate activities which are unethical, and then also the travel agents say that we don't want to offer services that are unethical in terms of animal welfare, and then the company owner has to try to work between this pressure and also take care of the reindeer welfare. So, and as this entrepreneur says here, the most important thing is the groundwork when educating or teaching the reindeer for the tourism work. So then going to the different areas of the well-being of a tourism reindeer, and as I already said, this tourism context brings some issues to the welfare which are different from the traditional reindeer herding. So, for example, training the reindeer before the tourism season begins is really important, that the reindeer is fit before the season. For example, the muscles has to be, or it has to be enough strong to pull the sledge, and one thing is that all the reindeers used for tourism, they are males because they are bigger. The females are too small for pulling the sledge, and also these reindeer all of them are castrated in order that they are calmer. And for example, in autumn or beginning of the season, if they weren't castrated, there would be a lot of problems with male reindeer. And also a sick leave is used if necessary, a sick leave, so that if the reindeer, they see that it's ill, they won't use it. And yesterday we heard a lot of diseases spread by different kind of animals. So in tourism industry, it's the tourists are the biggest threat or spreader of diseases. So, and how they try to deal with these issues, usually clothes are offered by the company, so they won't use their own, the tourists won't use their own clothes when participating the safaris. And also they try to prevent the unnecessary customer contact as far as possible. And also parasite prevention, usually they do it more often for the tourism reindeer than the normal reindeer. And then also mental well-being is important. In the previous presentation, we heard that the reindeer are pack animals, so they are really dependent on their other reindeer. So, and also the owner has to know their preferences, which reindeer can be used for the longer safaris and which can be used for the shorter ones. So the reindeer keep motivated. And also, yeah, the social relationships are important. And also the stress level can be high during the high season in Christmas. So they also have to handle with that issue. And also they try to stimulation or they try to do that as far as possible. So for example, here you see in the picture that ball has it's full of lichen, so it's used with horses, so it can also be used with reindeer to activate them. And also the terrain where the reindeers are kept, so they should be as versatile as possible. There should be trees that they can rub their antlers and different kind of food and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I think the premises is the biggest issue in the tourism industry, because a reindeer is a grazing animal, so it's natural. It has really large areas, but these tourism reindeers, because they have grown up and trained with human, so they are dependent on human care. So these enclosures should support the natural behavior of reindeer as far as possible. And they should also be large enough, and this is the minimum should be like 200 square meters per reindeer during winter time. And also several pens for different purposes. If they're like sick reindeer, they can be put in different pen, and if there are reindeer which doesn't get along with each other, they can be in a different pen, and so on. And in the pens, there should be enough snow or water for hydration. So, for example, if there's long seasons of frost, so the ground gets really trampled and the snow gets really packed, so that the reindeer can't eat the snow, so they have to shovel the snow or change the location for the reindeer, so in terms of the hydration. And also safety and cleaning, because they are staying long times in the same enclosure, so they have to clean them up, for example, in terms of diseases and so on. And also the reindeer are kept, so here in the picture you can see these ropes. So usually they are wearing these ropes all the time, so these ropes are tangled in the sledge going in front of them, so, and they are also easier to get from the pen when they have the rope. So that's also one reason why the enclosure have to be that there's no like rocks or anything else that this rope can tangle and the reindeer gets stuck. And also the reindeer can be kept in pole on the ground that waiting for the tourists like certain amount of time, so that shouldn't be too much, but in the high season that's one issue because some of the reindeer might spend a long amount of time in the pole, so they have to also take care about the hydration, bring the water and so on. So and in summertime, so some of the reindeer used in tourism, they are put on the natural pastures, but because they are trained and they are valuable in terms of money, so some entrepreneurs keep them in pens also in summertime, because when they let them loose, there's also like car accidents and predators and so on. So they are afraid that the reindeer gets killed. So that's why they keep them in pens like throughout the year. So also in summertime, they have to take care that there's enough food and nutrients and water in the pens, and also insects is because in the natural pastures the reindeer can search for open places like mires where there's wind. But in the pens they don't have that possibility. So for example, they build kind of heights for the reindeer so they can go away from the insects. And of course, feeding is also important. So in the high season, tourism high season, they need extra energy, and the entrepreneurs are kind of complaining that there's not enough studies and guidelines on reindeer feeding, so they have to apply information from different sources and mix them, and then try to figure out what's the best way to feed the reindeer during the high season. And here's some which they are using, and that's also a big issue. The last point, that enough time for rumination, that they have to be really careful about the schedules of the reindeer, that they have enough time in a pen that they can ruminate. If the reindeer is all the time pulling the tourist and eating and doesn't have time for rumination, that's there could be a really serious problem with that. So then about the work. So as I said already, so they have to train. It usually starts when the reindeer is less than 1 year old and lasts for 2 to 4 years. So it's a long period of time. So and when they are searching for the reindeer which could be used, so they are looking for physical and mental qualities that like be a strong and also a calm-tempered reindeer. And as I said, they are castrated. And so there's several different phases before the reindeer is ready for pulling the sledge. And also in Finland, they have a special ear tag for the reindeer trained for tourism work. So if they are found, for example, in summertime, they got in a car accident and die there, so they get the tourism reindeers more valuable, so they get more money from that. And here's something about the safaris. So they last from 30 minutes short round to a full day safari, and a full day safari, of course, there has to be breaks that the reindeer can rest, and also they can feed them some extra energy like lichen. And so they are walking usually in one string, and as I showed the picture, the reindeer are attached to each other by the rope. And also they have to think about the physical qualities of the reindeer versus the weight of the burden. So if there's a really like big guy or a family like a couple and one child sitting in a sleigh, then they have to look that the reindeer is big and strong enough to pull that burden. And also resting periods are important, and as also with the pens, also the routes has to be maintained that there's no risk for injury for the reindeer. And I think that's one of the most important one is the instructions for the customers that you shouldn't yell and shout and run because the reindeer are can be frightened, so that's really important to tell the customers. And some from the industry perspective, kind of concluding remarks, what would be the most important thing in my opinion, that the open communication, so the entrepreneurs should tell what they are doing, how they are doing it, probably tell stories of how the reindeers are what they are doing there, and also choosing the channels which feel most natural for the particular company, and also communication between the entrepreneurs, vets, animal-based tourism associations and tour operators is extremely important. And one thing I would add that, as I said already in terms of the food, that they would need more scientific research on, for example, the feeding of reindeer, so they could apply that for their operations. So thank you.
So 1 or 2 questions. There are already 2.
Anna Varus from the University of Helsinki. I was just wondering if you have any information or if there is any discussion on the training methods, because they're basically semi-domestic animals, if I understand it, they're taken from the herds that's been on the natural pastures and then trained. So what kind of methods are used for the training, and is there discussion on that?
So usually it's that they take the calf and then they start like slowly that first like touching that the reindeer, like first like standing near to the reindeer, then like touching, then putting the harness off like step by step, really slowly. And as I said, it takes 2 to 4 years that the reindeer is ready for. So it's so yeah, they started from like when the reindeer is a calf. So they don't took like a full-grown reindeer which has been like in natural pasture. So they don't, yeah.
Lauri Pyhälä, from a student from Amiedu. Question about the same subject, the training of the animals. Do you know about the methodology? Does it base itself on operant conditioning and use of reinforcement instead of just desensitization? Can't pronounce the word.
Sorry, I don't know about that. What's the in scientific terms, what's the method they are using?
Thank you very much.